The crash of ceramic against tile split through the dinner rush like a gunshot. Zara Brooks froze, her fingers still wrapped around the serving tray. Empty now, its contents scattered across the imported Italian marble in a catastrophic display of linguine, red wine, and shattered dreams. No, 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 no. The woman at table 14 was already on her feet. Expensive silk blouse painted in marinara, her shriek piercing enough to silence every fork in the establishment. "You stupid, incompetent—" "Mrs. Harrington, I am so sorry." Zara dropped to her knees, grabbing napkins, hands shaking as she tried to contain the disaster spreading across the floor. "Please let me get away from me." The woman's heel came down dangerously close to Zara's fingers. "Do you have any idea how much this blouse costs? More than you make in a month, I'd imagine." "Ma'am, I'll pay for the dry cleaning. You'll do nothing." Mrs. Harrington's voice could have cut glass. "Where's your manager? I want her fired. Tonight." The restaurant had gone deadly quiet, 50 pairs of eyes boring into her spine. The soft jazz that usually filled Milano's felt mocking now, too light for this particular execution. 3 years. 3 years of perfect service, of covering shifts, of smiling through every condescending comment and wandering hand. And this is how it ends? Heavy footsteps approached. Zara didn't need to look up to know who they belonged to. What the hell happened here? Marco De Luca, owner of Milano's, stood over her like a judge delivering a sentence. His cologne was too strong, his smile too practiced, his disappointment too performative for the watching crowd. "This girl threw food at me." Mrs. Harrington pointed a manicured finger at Zara. "I want her terminated immediately." "That's not what happened," Zara's voice cracked. "The tray slipped—" "Zara, a word, now." She stood on unsteady legs, marinara sauce soaking through the knees of her black pants. The walk of shame through the dining room felt endless, past the regulars who'd always requested her section, past the new servers who wouldn't meet her eyes, past the host stand where her best friend Destiny watched with helpless fury. The kitchen door swung shut behind her, cutting off the ambient noise of the dining room. The chaos of the back of house, steam, shouting line cooks, the clatter of dishes, should have felt familiar. Instead, it felt like a prison closing in. "You know what I have to do here." Marco's voice was flat. Final. "Marco, please." Zara hated the desperation in her own voice. "I've worked here for 3 years. I've never had a single complaint." "That woman is the wife of a city councilman. She's brought her entire social circle here for every event, every birthday, every anniversary. You know what losing her means?" "It was an accident," Zara wanted to scream. "She stuck her foot out when I passed. She tripped me on purpose because I told her husband to stop touching me last week. But she knew how that would sound. How it always sounded. I'll apologize. I'll comp her meal. You're done, Zara. Collect your things." The words hit like a physical blow. 3 years of rent payments, college fund contributions, her mother's medical bills, all flashing before her eyes. "You can't do this." "I just did." Marco's smile was almost pitying. "And I'd hurry if I were you. Mrs. Harrington seems like the type to make phone calls. I doubt you'll be working in any restaurant in this city by morning." The night air was cold for September, carrying the smell of garbage and exhaust from the street. Zara sat on an overturned crate, too tired to cry anymore, too angry to move. 23 years old, no degree, no savings, no job. Her phone buzzed, then again, then continuously. "Mom, how is work, baby?" "Destiny." "OMG, are you okay?" "Marco is such a dick, Grandma. Don't forget dinner Sunday." She couldn't answer any of them. Not yet. Not until she figured out what the hell she was going to do. The sound of a motorcycle engine broke the silence, followed by the crunch of boots on gravel. Zara didn't look up. She was used to delivery guys coming through at all hours. "Rough night?" The voice was smooth, accented in a way she couldn't quite place. Quiet, but with an edge beneath it, like still water over a riptide. "Do I know you?" She finally looked up. Oh, he was beautiful in a dangerous way, like lightning or wildfire or anything else you should have the sense to run from. Korean, late 20s maybe, with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes. Dark hair fell across his forehead, deliberately disheveled. He wore a black leather jacket over what she could tell were expensive clothes, even in the dim light. He was holding a delivery bag with Milano's logo on it. "I'm new, first night." He said it simply, without apology or elaboration. His eyes lingered on her face, on the tear tracks, the ruined uniform, but he didn't comment, didn't offer empty sympathy, small mercies. "Yeah, well, get out while you can." She stood, brushing off her pants, suddenly conscious of how she must look. This place is a special kind of hell. He was still watching her with those unsettling eyes, dark brown, almost black, giving nothing away. What happened? Something in his tone made her pause. It wasn't curiosity. It was something closer to data collection. "Why do you care?" The words came out harsher than she intended, but she was past caring about politeness, past caring about much of anything. "You're just a delivery guy." He smiled. It was a small thing, barely a twitch at the corner of his mouth, but it transformed his face completely, made him look younger and infinitely more dangerous at the same time. Just a delivery guy. He repeated her words like he was tasting them, finding them amusing. "Sorry, that was rude. I'm just..." She gestured vaguely at herself, at the restaurant behind them. "It's been a night." "You got fired." Not a question. "How did you..." "The way you're sitting, the uniform, the fact that Marco DeLuca has the emotional intelligence of a parking meter and the moral compass of a weather vane." "Okay, so he's been here longer than one night." "You know Marco?" "I know men like Marco." There was ice in those words, something ancient and personal that made Zara take an unconscious step back. The kitchen door banged open behind them. Light spilled into the alley, along with the sound of Marco's voice at full volume. "Hey, new guy!" Marco's face was red with fury. "We've got 6 orders waiting and you're out here chatting up former employees? Get your ass inside before I fire you too." Daniel didn't turn around. His eyes stayed on Zara's face, something calculating in his expression. "You should go," she said quietly. "Trust me, he'll actually do it." "I'm not worried about that." "Are you deaf? Move it." Daniel's jaw tightened. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered across his features. Something dark and hungry that made Zara's breath catch. Then it was gone, and he was just a delivery guy again. Just a stranger in a leather jacket with an overpriced motorcycle. "What's your name?" "Why?" "Because I'd like to remember it." Something about the way he said it made her answer before she could think better of it. "Zara Brooks." He nodded once like he was filing the information away. "Daniel." No last name. She noticed that. "I swear to God." "You should go home, Zara Brooks." He turned toward the kitchen door, toward Marco's red face and thundering demands. But at the last moment, he paused. "And don't worry about the job situation. Something tells me it'll work out." Then he was gone, disappearing into the chaos of the kitchen like he belonged there. Like he wasn't just some random delivery driver picking up orders for drunk customers. Zara stared at the closed door for a long moment. What the hell was that about? Sleep hadn't come easy. Zara lay in bed, watching the ceiling crack she'd been meaning to report for 6 months, and ran the numbers for the 1,000th time. Rent, $1,850. Due in 3 weeks. Mom's medication copay, $400. Due next week. Utilities, $180. Student loans, $350. Food, transit, basic human survival. Her phone buzzed against her chest. Destiny. "Girl, have you seen the news?" She typed back without thinking. "Zara. What news?" Still crying into my pillow like a normal person. Destiny. "Check Instagram Right now, schau genau. Zara sighed, pulling up the app. Her feed was the usual chaos of food pics, selfies, and sponsored content. Nothing that would... Then she saw it. Milano's restaurant closed by health department. Rats found in kitchen. She sat up so fast her vision speckled. The headline was everywhere. News outlets, food blogs, local gossip pages. The photos were damning. Actual rats in the dry storage, health code violations documented with timestamps from last night. Last night. Her phone rang. Destiny. Are you seeing this? Destiny's voice was pitched high with disbelief. I'm seeing it. I don't understand it, but I'm seeing it. Girl, there were never rats in that kitchen. I've worked there almost as long as you. Marco is crazy about cleanliness. So what? Someone planted them? That's what Marco is screaming about to anyone who'll listen. He's saying it's sabotage, that someone set him up. Zara thought about dark eyes and an expensive motorcycle, about a delivery guy who knew Marco's emotional intelligence statistics, about a smile that promised things she couldn't name. Something tells me it'll work out. No, that was insane. That was... Z, you there? Yeah, I'm here. Do they know who did it? No evidence of a break-in or anything. Just rats. Everywhere. Like they appeared out of thin air. Zara's stomach turned. Not from disgust. From something closer to fear. Anyway, I'm unemployed now too, so drinks later. We can start our new life of poverty together. Rain check. I need to figure some things out. She hung up before Destiny could ask questions. The delivery guy, Daniel. No last name. He'd known something. Said something about Marco's character that suggested familiarity beyond a single night's employment. Who delivers takeout on a motorcycle that expensive? She grabbed her laptop, fingers moving faster than her thoughts. Daniel Korean restaurant industry brought up nothing useful. Daniel Milano's New York was useless. Daniel... She stopped. She was being paranoid. A coincidence, that's all this was. Just karma catching up with Marco DeLuca in spectacular fashion. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Unknown. Check your email. Who the hell is D? Her hands were shaking as she opened her email. There, at the top of her inbox, was a message she'd never forget. From recruitment@shinholdings.com to zara.brooks@gmail.com. Subject, employment opportunity. Urgent date. Today, 6:47. AMM's Brooks, Shin Holdings. LLC is pleased to offer you a position as personal assistant to our CEO, effective immediately. Salary, $175,000 per year, plus full benefits and housing allowance. Please respond at your earliest convenience. A car will be sent upon your confirmation. Regards, K Park Executive Secretary, Shin Holdings. Zara read the email 3 times. $175,000. That was more than triple what she'd made at Milano's. More than her mother made as a nurse practitioner. More than she'd ever seen in one place in her entire life. There had to be a mistake. A typo. Someone had the wrong Zara Brooks. She Googled Shin Holdings LLC, and that's when her heart stopped. The results were overwhelming. Headlines upon headlines stretching back years. Shin Holdings acquires major stake in Tesla battery division. Korean-American billionaire Daniel Shin named Forbes 30 under 30. The Silent Empire, how the Shin family controls 15% of Asian tech exports. And there, in a professional headshot that still managed to look like a threat, Daniel Shin, the delivery guy, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire, the man who'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. Zara's phone rang, unknown number again. She answered without thinking. I take it you got my email. His voice was the same, smooth, accented, dangerously quiet. But now she heard it differently. Now she heard the power underneath. You use your words, Zara. You were pretending to be a delivery guy? She couldn't keep the outrage from her voice. You let me... I called you. You called me just a delivery guy. I'm aware. There was amusement in his voice now. She wanted to throw her phone across the room. Why? Why would someone like you pretend to work at a random restaurant? I was conducting research. Research for what? A pause. When he spoke again, the amusement was gone. Something colder had taken its place. Do you know why Marco DeLuca was able to open Milano's 3 years ago? She didn't. It had never occurred to her to ask. Shin Holdings invested $2 million into the project. Daniel's voice was measured, precise. My father's idea. Support local businesses, build goodwill in the community, noble intentions. What does that have to do with... Marco DeLuca used half that money to pay off gambling debts. The other half he funneled through shell companies back to himself. He's been operating that restaurant on razor-thin margins and creative accounting ever since. Zara sank down onto her bed, mind racing. For 3 years I've been waiting for the right moment to destroy him, Daniel continued. Last night I decided to witness the operation firsthand. See if there was anything worth salvaging. And there was one thing. His voice softened on those words. Just slightly. Just enough to make her breath catch. The rats. Zara's voice was barely a whisper. That was you. I have no idea what you're talking about. But she could hear the smile in his voice. Why offer me a job? We spoke for 5 minutes. You don't know anything about me. I know you worked at that restaurant for 3 years and never stole a single dollar despite having access to the register nightly. I know you covered shifts for coworkers with sick children and never asked for overtime. I know you send 60% of your paycheck to your mother for medical bills. I know you've been saving for culinary school for the last 2 years. Ice crawled down Zara's spine. How do you know all that? I'm very thorough, Zara. When something interests me, I learn everything about it. When something interests me. The way he said it, like she was a specimen under a microscope, like she was already his. What if I say no? Then you say no. The offer stands regardless. But I don't think you will. You don't know me. Not yet. Those 2 words hung in the air between them. A promise. A threat. She couldn't tell the difference. I need time to think. You have until noon. After that, I'm afraid my schedule becomes complicated. That's 3 hours. The world moves fast, Ms. Brooks. Keep up or get left behind. The line went dead. The car that came for her was black, silent, and expensive enough to make her neighbors stare from their windows. Zara had spent 2 hours, 45 minutes overthinking every possible outcome. She'd made pro-con lists, called her mother, who'd screamed about the salary and told her to accept immediately, and stress-eaten an entire pint of ice cream. In the end, the choice was simple. $175,000 a year. Benefits, housing allowance, versus unemployment, eviction, watching her mother skip medications to cover rent. She'd put on her best interview outfit, a navy blazer she'd found at Goodwill and tailored herself, cream blouse, black pants that weren't stained with marinara. Her natural hair was twisted into a careful updo. She looked professional. She looked terrified. Shin Tower was a monument to obscene wealth, 90 floors of black glass and chrome that dominated the Manhattan skyline. The lobby alone was larger than her entire apartment building. A woman appeared before Zara had taken 3 steps from the entrance. Ms. Brooks. The woman's efficiency was almost intimidating. I'm Karen Park, Mr. Shin's executive secretary. Please follow me. She was middle-aged, Korean-American, and possessed the kind of efficiency that suggested she'd survived several apocalypses and still had time for her morning coffee. I didn't even give my name yet. Mr. Shin sent your photo. He likes to be prepared. Your photo. From where? Her Instagram? Her driver's license? Did billionaires have access to DMV records? They moved through the lobby like sharks through water, people parting around Miss Park as if by magnetic force, into a private elevator. Up, up, up. Zara's ears popped twice. Before we reach the 99th floor, there are some things you should understand about Mr. Shin. Karen's voice was crisp but not unkind. Like the fact that he pretends to be a delivery guy for fun? Ms. Park's lips twitched. It might have been a smile. Like the fact that he does not explain himself. He does not repeat instructions. He does not tolerate tardiness, excuses, or disloyalty. He also does not engage in small talk, attend company parties, or remember birthdays. Sounds delightful. He's the most brilliant, ruthless, and demanding employer I've ever had. I've been with him for 6 years. Why stay that long? Ms. Park finally looked at her directly. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, but not unkind. Because when Daniel Shin cares about something, truly cares, he will move heaven and earth to protect it. That kind of loyalty is rare, Ms. Brooks. In my experience, it's worth a few skipped birthdays. The elevator dinged. The doors opened to a view that stole Zara's breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Manhattan spread out below like a jeweled carpet. Minimal furniture. All clean lines and expensive leather. The kind of office that belonged in architecture magazines. And there, standing at the window with his back to her, was Daniel Shin. He looked different in the daylight. Sharper. More dangerous. The leather jacket was gone, replaced by a suit that probably cost more than her car. His posture was military straight, hands clasped behind his back. He didn't turn around. That will be all, Karen. Miss Park nodded once, then retreated to the elevator. The doors closed. Zara was alone with the most powerful man she'd ever met. The silence stretched. Say something. Don't just stand there like an idiot. Nice office? God, she wanted to die. He turned. In the light, his eyes weren't black. They were dark brown, warm underneath all that ice. He looked at her like she was the most interesting thing he'd seen all year. You came? You paid for a very expensive car to come get me. Zara shrugged, trying to appear casual. Seemed rude to refuse. Money doesn't usually make people more polite. In my experience, it has the opposite effect. He moved away from the window, circling his desk without sitting. Predator assessing prey. Look, Mr. Shin. Daniel. Mr. Shin, I need to know what this is really about. People don't offer strangers 6-figure jobs because they witness them getting fired. There's an agenda here, and I'd like to know what it is before I sign anything. He stopped moving, tilted his head. Smart. Cautious. There's a difference. Is there? He picked up a folder from his desk. Thick, manila, her name printed on the tab, and held it out. This is every piece of information my team could gather about you in 12 hours, employment history, credit score, social media presence, medical records. How is that legal? Psychological evaluation based on your online patterns, academic transcripts, interview footage from the Culinary Institute of America, which you applied to 3 years ago before withdrawing your application for financial reasons. He set the folder down. I know everything about you, Zara Brooks. Your favorite color is yellow because it reminds you of your grandmother's kitchen. You broke your arm at 7 falling out of a tree in your aunt's backyard. You volunteer at a community kitchen on Sundays even though you work Saturday nights. You have $347 in your savings account, a maxed out credit card, and approximately 4 weeks before you're evicted from your apartment. Each fact landed like a blow. Her entire life, dissected and documented, held in a manila folder like it was nothing. You had no right? You asked what this was about. I'm telling you. He came around the desk, closing the distance between them, slowly, deliberately, giving her time to run. She didn't. I'm a very powerful man, Zara. I have enemies who would kill to have a weapon against me. Marrying into another wealthy family offers no protection, only more vulnerabilities. The women my father suggests are calculating, ambitious, and ultimately interested in only one thing. Your money, my name, my power, the things I can give them. He stopped an arm's length away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something warm and expensive that made her head spin. You don't want those things. How do you know what I want? Because when I offered you $175,000 a year, your first instinct was suspicion, not gratitude, not greed. You demanded to know the agenda. He smiled that dangerous smile again. You're uncorruptible, Zara Brooks. You've been handed nothing in your life, and you've built yourself from scratch. You're intelligent, resilient, and honest to a fault. Those qualities are rarer than diamonds in my world. So what? You want to, keep me on retainer? Some kind of trophy assistant? I want to marry you. Time stopped. I'm sorry. What? 6 months, a contract marriage. You'll play the role of my devoted fiancé for public appearances. In exchange, I'll pay off your mother's medical debt, cover your student loans, fund your culinary school education, set you up with a restaurant of your own when the contract ends. Her head was spinning. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. You don't even know me. I know enough. This is insane. This is business. He returned to his desk, pulling out another folder. This one read, ominous. My father has been murdered, Zara, 3 weeks ago. The official story is a heart attack, but I know better. Someone in my organization is a traitor, and they're using my single status as leverage. Shareholders, competitors, enemies, they all see an unmarried CEO as vulnerable, temporary. He opened the red folder, crime scene photos, blood on marble floors, a man who shared Daniel's bone structure, forever frozen in death. Oh my God. I need stability, I need to project strength, and I need someone by my side who isn't after my fortune or my position. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something human in those dark eyes. Grief, rage, a desperate, burning need for justice. Help me find who killed my father, Zara, and I will give you everything you've ever dreamed of. She'd said yes, not because of the money, though God knew she needed it, not because of the penthouse or the designer wardrobe or the black card with no spending limit. She'd said yes because of the way Daniel's voice had cracked, just slightly, when he mentioned his father. Because beneath all that ice and power, she'd glimpsed something broken, something she recognized. What happened to your dad, baby? He left, Mama. He just left. Now she stood in a closet that cost more than her entire childhood, trying to figure out which of these designer gowns she was supposed to wear to her engagement party. Girl, what did you get yourself into? Her phone buzzed. Destiny. Destiny. Where are you? I haven't heard from you in a week. Zara. Long story. I'll explain later. Things got complicated. Destiny. Complicated how? Did you find a job? Zara looked at herself in the mirror. Diamond earrings she hadn't bought. Shoes that cost more than her rent. A ring on her finger that probably required its own insurance policy. Zara. You could say that. A knock at the closet door made her jump. Ms. Brooks, Mr. Shin is ready for your fitting. Fitting. For the engagement party, which is in 6 hours. The week had been a blur. Contract signings, NDA reviews, moving into the penthouse's guest suite, learning the rhythm of Daniel's life, the early mornings, the endless meetings, the way the entire building seemed to vibrate with tension whenever he walked through. She'd barely seen him. A passing nod in the hallway, a brief conversation about her dietary restrictions. Nothing personal. Nothing like the intensity of that first offer. It was almost disappointing. Get it together, Zara. This is a business arrangement. Nothing more. She followed Karen to the main living area, where an entire team of stylists, tailors, and makeup artists had set up camp. And there was Daniel. He stood by the window in a half-buttoned dress shirt, one of the tailors measuring his shoulders. The sight of him, sleeves rolled up, collar open, a strip of golden skin visible at his throat, made her mouth go dry. Business arrangement. Business arrangement. He looked up when she entered. Those dark eyes traveled over her, slowly, deliberately, taking in the silk robe and the diamond earrings and the way her natural hair had been coiled into an elaborate crown. "You look—" She waited. So did everyone else in the room. "Acceptable. Acceptable. Acceptable. Wow, Mr. Shin, your way with words is truly unmatched." Karen made a sound that might have been a laugh. Daniel's lips twitched. "The Emerald Valentino." He said it to the room at large, and suddenly everyone was moving, pulling out a dress she hadn't seen before, forest green and devastating, the kind of gown that started wars in fairy tales. "If Ms. Brooks would follow me—" "I can pick my own clothes, thanks." The room went still. Even Karen looked taken aback. Daniel just watched her with those unreadable eyes. "Can you—" "Excuse me? Tonight you'll be photographed by every major outlet in the country. You'll be analyzed, scrutinized, judged by people whose entire careers depend on finding flaws. One wrong choice, a dress that photographs badly, heels that make you stumble, earrings that catch the light wrong, and the narrative shifts. I'm not the mysterious bachelor marrying a nobody. I'm the fool who chose poorly." Each word was precise, cold, cutting. "So I'm supposed to just stand here and let strangers dress me like a doll? For tonight?" "Yes." "This is what you agreed to, Ms. Brooks, public appearances, playing a role. If you can't handle a fitting, perhaps you should reconsider the arrangement." He turned back to the window, dismissing her, and something inside Zara snapped. "You know what, Mr. Shin? You're absolutely right. I agreed to this arrangement. I signed your contract. But nowhere in that contract did it say I had to lose my entire personality in the process." She grabbed the emerald dress from the stylist's hands. "I'll wear your pretty dress. I'll smile for your cameras. I'll be the perfect little fiancé for your shareholders and enemies and whoever else you're trying to impress. But you don't get to treat me like I'm invisible. You don't get to talk to me like I'm a problem to be managed." She stepped closer, close enough to see the muscles in his jaw tighten. "You picked me because I'm uncorruptible, because I'm honest, because I don't want your money. Well, this is what honesty looks like, Daniel. Get used to it." The room had gone deathly quiet. The stylists looked like they wanted to disappear. Karen was very deliberately studying her tablet. Daniel stared at her. And then, slowly, impossibly, he smiled. Not the dangerous smile from the alley, not the cold smile of the businessman. This was something real, something that made him look almost human. "The earrings are wrong." "What?" "The diamond studs. They're too flashy. You'd look better in something simpler." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside were a pair of jade drop earrings, delicate and understated, the exact shade of the emerald dress. "These were my mother's. I had them brought from Seoul this morning." Zara's anger deflated like a punctured balloon. You want me to wear your mother's earrings? I want my fiancée to look like she belongs with me, not like a bought accessory." He held the box out, a peace offering, an admission. She took them carefully, feeling the weight of history in her hands. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. The fitting takes 3 hours, and the makeup artist is terrifyingly efficient." The ballroom of the Shin Tower executive floor had been transformed into something from a fever dream. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across 300 of Manhattan's most powerful people. A full orchestra played softly in the corner, champagne flowed like water, and conversations hummed at the precise volume of calculated networking. And at the center of it all, Zara Brooks stood with Daniel Shin's hand on the small of her back, trying not to hyperventilate. "Breathe. Just breathe. You've handled worse. Remember the Saturday brunch rush at Milano's? This is nothing. You're doing beautifully." She nearly jumped out of her skin. He'd been silent for the last 20 minutes, guiding her through introductions with minimal commentary. "I'm terrified." "I know. That's why you're doing beautifully." Before she could process that, another couple approached. A white-haired Korean man in an impeccable suit, accompanied by a younger woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. "Daniel, you've been avoiding me." Daniel's hand tightened on Zara's back. "Just slightly." "Uncle, I've been busy." "Too busy to discuss your father's estate? To address the board's concerns about—" His eyes landed on Zara, sharpened. "About this unexpected engagement? It's nice to meet you. I'm Zara." She extended her hand. The elder Shin looked at it like she'd offered him a dead fish. "Yes, I'm aware of who you are, Ms. Brooks. Or should I say, what you are." "Careful, Uncle." His voice had dropped several degrees. The warning was unmistakable. "A waitress from Brooklyn, with no family connections, no education, no—" "She is my fiancée, the woman I've chosen to spend my life with, and you will treat her with the respect that position demands, or you will leave my building." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Elder Shin's eyes narrowed. The woman beside him, his daughter, Zara guessed from the similar bone structure, put a hand on his arm. "Father, this isn't the time." "No, it never is with Daniel." He turned and walked away, the crowd parting for him like water. His daughter lingered a moment longer, her gaze finding Zara's. "I apologize for my father. He's traditional." "Traditional is one word for it." Minji's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "My cousin is difficult. But he's not wrong about you." "Wrong about what?" "You're not like the others, the ones who wanted his money or his name." She looked at Daniel, who was watching the exchange with those unreadable eyes. "For what it's worth, I hope you survive him." She left before Zara could ask what that meant. "Your family seems fun." "My family is a nest of vipers. That was my Uncle Samuel, my father's younger brother. He's been trying to take control of the company since before I was born." "And his daughter?" "Minji. She's complicated. We were close once." "Close how?" Zara wanted to ask, but now wasn't the time. "Come, there's someone I need you to meet." He guided her through the crowd, past senators and celebrities and CEOs whose faces she recognized from magazine covers. Every step felt like walking through a minefield. Finally, they stopped before a woman. She was stunning. Korean, maybe 50, with silver-streaked hair and cheekbones that could cut glass. She wore a simple black dress that probably cost more than Zara's entire wardrobe, and her eyes were sharp enough to see through walls. "Zara, this is Yoonji Park. She was my father's trusted advisor. I was his mistress for 20 years. Let's not pretend otherwise, Daniel." Zara blinked. Daniel didn't react. "Ms. Brooks, you're not what I expected." "I'm not sure what to say to that." "Say nothing. It's usually the wisest choice at these events." She turned to Daniel, and her sharp expression softened into something like grief. "He would have liked her. Your father. He always appreciated people who didn't belong in rooms like this." "Did you find anything?" "Nothing concrete. But there are whispers about the night he died, about who visited him in his office." Daniel's hand clenched into a fist at his side. "Be patient, Daniel. Revenge taken too quickly becomes its own trap." She kissed his cheek, nodded once at Zara, and disappeared into the crowd. "What was that about?" "Later." "You keep saying that." "Later." "When is later exactly?" He looked at her. Really looked, for the first time all evening. "When we're alone, when I'm certain no one is listening." His fingers brushed her wrist, a touch so light she might have imagined it. "I know this is overwhelming. I know you didn't sign up for this." He gestured at the room, at the wealth and power and barely concealed hostility surrounding them. "But I need you to trust me, just for tonight. Can you do that?" Trust him. A man she'd known for a week. A man who'd investigated every aspect of her life. A man whose family wanted her gone before she'd even arrived. But when she looked in his eyes, she didn't see a billionaire or a CEO or a dangerous stranger. She saw someone alone in a crowd of hundreds. Someone who had lost his father and had no one to grieve with. Someone who had chosen her, of all people, to stand beside him. Just for tonight? It's all I'm asking. She laced her fingers through his, felt him go still, then relax. Then yes, I can do that. The Sunday dinner tradition had survived poverty, eviction notices, and one memorable incident involving a small kitchen fire. Zara wasn't about to let a fake engagement stop it, but explaining that fake engagement to her mother was another matter entirely. So let me understand this. A billionaire. Mom, a Korean billionaire owns half of Manhattan, shows up in an alley behind your job. He was doing deliveries. And somehow, in the span of 3 weeks, you're engaged, living in his penthouse, working for his company. Her mother's fork hovered mid-air, loaded with jollof rice that was slowly getting cold. It sounds worse when you say it out loud. Baby, I didn't survive raising you alone for 23 years to watch you get swept up in something dangerous. This man, you barely know him. I know his father was murdered. I know he cries in his sleep sometimes. I know he keeps his mother's earrings in a velvet box because he can't bear to look at them, but can't throw them away either. She couldn't say any of that. I know enough. Enough to marry him. Enough to trust him. Patricia set down her fork, studied her daughter with the kind of penetrating gaze only mothers possessed. You're lying to me, Zara Renee Brooks. I changed your diapers. I know every tell you got. Damn it. Mama, I don't know what's really going on. And maybe you can't tell me. Maybe there's things in that man's world I don't need to understand. But I'm going to say this once. She reached across the table, took Zara's hands in her own, calloused hands, hands that had scrubbed floors and typed reports and held Zara through every nightmare. You deserve someone who sees you, not what you can do for them, not what you represent. You, the girl who used to burn toast making breakfast and cry at Pixar movies and talk to plants like they could hear her. Mama, I was 6. You still talk to that succulent in your bathroom. Don't think I didn't notice. Zara's eyes stung. She blinked rapidly. If this man, Daniel, if he sees that girl, the real girl, and loves her anyway, then I'll welcome him with open arms and cook him the best meal he's ever eaten. He would probably like that. His cooking skills are limited. Rich men usually can't boil water. You're not wrong. Her mother squeezed her hands once more, then released them. Now eat your rice before it gets cold, and tell me more about this penthouse. Does it have one of those fancy coffee machines? Because your grandmother's been asking about one of those for Christmas. The rest of the dinner passed in easier territory. Gossip about the neighbors, complaints about the MTA, Patricia's ongoing war with the pigeons on her fire escape. But underneath it all, Zara felt the weight of her mother's concern. She knows something's wrong. She always knows. Her phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. Daniel, how is dinner? She glanced at her mother, who was clearing plates with practiced efficiency. Zara, my mother knows I'm lying to her. Daniel, you're not lying. You're protecting her. Zara, that feels like the same thing. A pause. Then, Daniel, would it help if I met her? Zara's heart stuttered. Zara, you want to meet my mother? Daniel, I want to earn her trust. The same way I'm trying to earn yours. She looked up. Patricia was watching her with knowing eyes. Is that him? Yeah. Tell him Sunday dinners are at 6, and he better not bring expensive wine. I only drink Moscato. Mama, you don't even know. I know my daughter, and I know when she's already falling, even if she won't admit it to herself. Sleep had become a foreign concept. Daniel scrolled through the security footage from the night his father died for what felt like the 100th time. The same angles, the same timestamps, the same nothing. Whoever had done this knew the building, knew the cameras, knew how to move unseen. His phone lit up with the last text from Zara. Even if she won't admit it to herself. He'd read it 3 times already, couldn't stop reading it. Falling. The word sat in his chest like a stone. heavy, uncomfortable, impossible to ignore. He pulled up a different file. One he hadn't shown Zara. One he'd been keeping locked away since the beginning. His father's last email, sent at 10:47 p.m. on the night he died. Daniel, I've made mistakes, many of them. Some you know about, some I've hidden to protect you. But I need you to understand one thing before it's too late. The company was never the point. You were. You and your mother. Everything I built for you. There are people who would take it all from you if they could. Some of them are closer than you think. Trust carefully. Love fiercely. And remember, power without purpose is just destruction wearing a suit. I'm sorry I didn't tell you this in person. I'm sorry for a lot of things. But I'm proud of the man you've become, even if you don't believe it. All my love, Abeoji. Daniel closed the laptop. The city glittered below him like scattered diamonds. His father had loved this view, had stood at this very window countless times, planning, scheming, building his empire one calculated move at a time. Trust carefully, love fiercely. Zara's face flashed through his mind. The way she'd challenged him in the dressing room, the fire in her eyes at the gala, the gentle touch of her hand when he talked about his father. She was supposed to be a pawn, a tool, a means to an end. When had she become something else? The elevator chimed behind him. Soft footsteps approached. You're still up? She was in pajamas, simple cotton, nothing fancy, with her hair wrapped in a silk scarf and her face bare of makeup. She looked younger this way, softer, real. Couldn't sleep. Me neither. She settled onto the couch beside him, not touching, but close enough that he could feel the warmth of her presence. My mother wants you to come to Sunday dinner. I know. She also says you can't bring expensive wine, Moscato only. I'll remember that. Silence stretched between them, comfortable somehow, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. What are you looking at? He glanced at the closed laptop. The past. Find anything useful? Just ghosts. She studied his face in the dim light. Whatever she saw there made her shift closer. My dad left when I was 7, just walked out one morning and never came back. For years, I thought it was my fault. Something I did. Something I said. It wasn't. I know that now. But back then, I would have done anything, changed anything, if it meant making him stay. She tucked her feet beneath her, turning to face him fully. The thing about ghosts is, they only have power if you keep trying to bring them back. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let them go. Is that what you did? With your father? Eventually. It took years, therapy, a lot of screaming into pillows. But yeah. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep living for someone who'd already left. He looked at her. Really looked. This woman who'd appeared in his life like a lightning strike, and somehow, against all odds, had started to feel like home. I don't know how to let go. That's okay. You don't have to figure it out tonight. She stood, extended her hand. Come on, I'll make you tea. Tea? My grandmother's recipe. Honey, ginger, a little bit of chamomile. Cures insomnia, heartbreak, and existential dread. Or at least, that's what she claims. He shouldn't. He should maintain distance, professional boundaries, the careful walls he'd built over a lifetime. Instead, he took her hand. Lead the way. The penthouse was quiet when they returned. Zara kicked off her heels the moment the elevator doors closed, groaning in relief. 6 hours in those death traps. Her feet would never forgive her. I don't know how people do this every day. Daniel shrugged off his jacket, draping it over a chair with the casual ease of someone who'd never had to wonder where his next meal was coming from. They don't. Most of them are miserable, so they drink. That explains the champagne consumption. She collapsed onto the couch, a massive sectional that probably cost more than her mother's house, and stared at the ceiling. Your uncle really hates me. My uncle hates everyone who threatens his position. Don't take it personally. And Minji? What did she mean about surviving you? Daniel was silent for a moment. When she looked over, he was pouring 2 glasses of whiskey at the bar cart. Minji and I were engaged once, when we were children. Zara sat up. A business arrangement between my father and my uncle. The merger of our branches of the family. It was dissolved when I was 16. Why? He brought the whiskey over, handing her a glass before settling into the chair across from her. The distance was deliberate. Professional. Because I told my father I would rather die than marry someone I didn't choose. The words hung in the air. That's dramatic. I was 16. Everything was dramatic. And now, you're marrying someone you barely know because of a contract. He looked at her over the rim of his glass. But I chose this time. That's the difference. He chose me. The thought was dangerous. She pushed it away. You said you'd tell me more about your father, about what really happened. Daniel set down his glass. His expression shifted, from guarded to something raw. My father was murdered in his office 3 weeks ago. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest, but there was no history of heart problems in our family. No warning signs. Nothing. So someone made it look like a heart attack? There are substances that can induce cardiac failure without leaving traces. Expensive. Hard to obtain. The kind of thing only someone with significant resources could access. Your uncle? He has motive, control of the company, but he's not the only one. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something before handing it to her. These are the people who visited my father's office the night he died. On the screen was a security log. Names, timestamps, ID photos. 5 people. Samuel Shin, Minji Shin, Yoonji Park, a man named James Chen, CFO of Shin Holdings, and someone named Victor Kong, head of security. Your whole family was there? It was my father's birthday, a private celebration before the public event. But you weren't there. Daniel's jaw tightened. I was in Seoul, negotiating a merger that my father said couldn't wait. By the time I got the call, he stopped, swallowed. I never got to say goodbye. Zara set down her whiskey. Without thinking, she moved from the couch to the arm of his chair, close enough to touch. Daniel, I'm so sorry. He looked up at her. In the low light of the penthouse, his eyes weren't cold anymore. They were shattered. Everyone in that room had something to gain from his death. Everyone had access. Everyone had opportunity. And one of them is a murderer. How do I help? That's what you wanted, right? Someone to help you find the truth? I need eyes and ears that no one suspects. Everyone knows my security team, my staff, my associates. But you're new. You're supposed to be insignificant. The pretty distraction. Ouch. They're words, not mine. She reached out, touched his hand. He went absolutely still. I'll do it. Whatever you need. But you have to promise me something. What? When you find them, when you find whoever did this, you let the police handle it. You don't do something that'll land you in prison. He didn't answer. His eyes dropped to where her fingers rested on his hand. Daniel, promise me. I can promise to try. It wasn't enough. She knew it wasn't enough, but it was something. Then we have a deal. Playing the fiancé was easier than Zara expected. Playing the personal assistant was a nightmare. Ms. Park, where do the quarterly reports go? Digital filing system, folder 7C, sorted by date, then department. And the meeting requests? Calendar app, color-coded, red for urgent, yellow for important, green for everything else. Mr. Shin doesn't do blue. It reminds him of his father's funeral. Of course it does. The first week at Shin Holdings had been a crash course in corporate warfare. Everyone was watching, everyone was judging, and everyone from the senior executives to the coffee cart lady seemed to have an opinion about Daniel Shin's engagement. Most of them were not favorable. Did you see her shoes? Target, definitely. I heard she doesn't even have a degree, just a waitress. He'll get bored in a month, mark my words. Zara pretended not to hear. She'd heard worse at Milano's. Let them talk. It's not about them. The door to Daniel's office opened. Just saying, the optics are concerning. Shareholders are asking questions. James Chen was the CFO of Shin Holdings. Mid-50s, impeccable suit, shark smile. He'd been on the security log from the night Daniel's father died, and he'd been staring at Zara like a specimen since she arrived. The shareholders can ask all they want. My personal life is not their concern. It becomes their concern when stock prices are affected. The engagement announcement caused a 3% dip, which has since recovered, as it always does. Daniel's voice was ice, the same ice Zara had heard in the alley, directed at Marco. Cold, final, the kind of voice that made powerful men back down. James hesitated in the doorway. His eyes flickered to Zara, something calculating in his gaze. Ms. Brooks, settling in? Like I've been here for years. It came out sharper than she intended. Karen made a small sound that might have been approval. James's smile widened, didn't reach his eyes. I'm sure. He left without another word. Zara, my office. She gathered herself and walked in. His corner office was massive, with the same floor-to-ceiling windows as the penthouse. But where the penthouse felt cold and sterile, this space showed signs of life. A photo frame on the desk, Daniel as a child with his father, both of them smiling. A collection of books on the shelf, well-worn and dog-eared, a jacket draped carelessly over a chair, like he'd been working all night. Close the door. She did. What did you hear? Your CFO doesn't like me. James Chen doesn't like anyone. What else? He called your engagement concerning, said the shareholders are worried. They're always worried. What else? She hesitated. He's watching me. Has been since I started. It's not subtle. Daniel leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. James Chen has been CFO of Shin Holdings for 12 years. He was my father's right hand, his most trusted advisor after Yoonji. You think he's the one? I don't know yet. That's what you're going to find out. He pulled up a file on his computer, spinning the monitor so she could see. James has a fundraiser next week, a charity gala for some environmental nonsense. I've arranged for you to attend. With you? Alone? I have a conflict, a meeting in Hong Kong that can't be moved. You want me to spy on your CFO by myself? I want you to observe. Ask questions. See what he's willing to tell a pretty distraction when he thinks no one important is watching. The words stung more than they should have. I don't mean... I know what you mean. She turned to leave. His voice stopped her at the door. Zara. What? The earrings looked beautiful on you at the party. She didn't turn around. They're your mother's earrings. They'd look beautiful on anyone. No, they wouldn't. The silence stretched between them, full of things neither of them was ready to say. Then Karen's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Shin, your 2 o'clock is here. The moment shattered. Send them in. Zara slipped out without looking back, but she could feel his eyes on her the entire way. The gala was a nightmare, wrapped in Chanel. Zara stood near the bar, nursing champagne she couldn't afford, and watching Manhattan's elite pretend to care about the rainforest. Every other woman in the room glittered with diamonds. She was wearing cubic zirconia studs she'd owned since college. You belong here. You belong here. You belong here. She repeated it like a mantra. It didn't help. Ms. Brooks, I didn't expect to see you here. James Chen materialized at her elbow, a whiskey in hand, and that calculating smile on his face. Daniel couldn't make it. I thought someone from the family should attend. How devoted of you. He said devoted, the way someone might say suspicious. It's a nice event. Do you attend every year? When business allows. The Shin family has always been generous to environmental causes. Marcus, Daniel's father, was passionate about conservation. Past tense. Already. You knew him well? For 20 years. We built this company together. That must make his death even harder. Something flickered in James's eyes. There, then gone. It was, unexpected? Marcus was in perfect health. We all thought he had another 20 years in him. Heart attacks don't always give warning. No, they don't. He sipped his whiskey, watching her over the rim. May I ask you something, Ms. Brooks? Of course. What are you really doing here? With Daniel, I mean. A man like him doesn't just find someone. There's always an agenda. He thinks I'm a gold digger, or a spy, or both. I love him. The lie came out easier than expected, maybe because it wasn't entirely false. Love? He said it like a foreign concept. In my experience, love doesn't factor into decisions at this level. Power does, money does, advantage does. Maybe that's the problem with your experience. His smile sharpened. You're interesting, Ms. Brooks. I'll give you that. Not many people would challenge me at my own fundraiser. This is your event? One of many. Environmental causes have always been a personal passion. A CFO with environmental passions. That's either very genuine or very convenient cover for something else. Daniel mentioned you've been with the company since the beginning, that you were there the night his father died. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Did he? He's trying to understand what happened. I think it would help him move forward if he knew who his father spent his last hours with. James set down his whiskey. Slowly, deliberately. Ms. Brooks, I'm going to give you some advice, and I suggest you take it. I'm listening. Marcus Shin was not a good man. He was ruthless, ambitious, and willing to do whatever it took to build his empire. He made enemies, many of them. Are you saying he deserved what happened? I'm saying that some stones are better left unturned, for everyone's sake, including yours. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, cloying. You seem like a smart woman, smart enough to recognize when you're out of your depth. This world, Daniel's world, it eats people like you alive. The best thing you could do is take whatever he's paying you and walk away, before it's too late. The threat was barely veiled. Zara's heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. And if I don't? Then I hope Daniel's insurance policies are up to date. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd of silk and champagne. Zara's hand trembled as she set down her glass. Her phone buzzed. Daniel? Daniel, how is it going? Zara, James just threatened me. 3 dots. Then, Daniel, get out of there. Now. My driver's outside. I'll be there in an hour. The door opened at 11 p.m. Daniel walked in like a thunderstorm. Suit rumpled, tie undone, eyes burning with fury. Tell me everything. She did. Word for word. The warning about his father, the threat about insurance policies, the look in James's eyes when he mentioned stones better left unturned. By the time she finished, Daniel was at the window, hands braced against the glass, breathing like he was barely holding himself together. Daniel? He threatened you. I'm fine. He threatened you. He spun around. The look on his face made her freeze. This wasn't the controlled businessman. This wasn't the calculated CEO. This was something feral, something that had been waiting beneath the surface for a very long time. I will destroy him. Daniel, do you understand what that means? What I'm capable of? I could bankrupt him within a month. I could have his entire career erased. I could make him disappear, and no one would ever find... Stop. She grabbed his arms, forced him to look at her. Stop. This is exactly what you said you wouldn't do. You promised you'd let the police... The police can't protect you from someone like James Chen. And neither can revenge. Not like this. His breathing was ragged. His hands were shaking. I know you're angry. I know you want to burn everything down, but this isn't the way. If James did kill your father, if he's capable of that, then we need evidence. Real evidence. Something that will actually put him away. And if he comes after you before we find it, then I'll be careful. I'll be smart. I'll let you assign me a bodyguard or whatever you need to do. But you don't get to throw away everything your father built just because you're scared. I'm not scared. You're terrified. You're terrified of losing someone else. The words hit home. She saw it in his eyes, the flash of recognition, the break in the armor. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I watched my father walk out when I was 7. I watched my mother work herself to exhaustion trying to keep us afloat. I know exactly what it feels like to be terrified of losing people. She released his arms, stepped back. But destroying James Chen won't bring your father back. It'll just make you into someone he wouldn't recognize. Daniel stared at her. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then his shoulders dropped. The tension drained from his body like water. You're right. I know. I hate it when you're right. Get used to it. He laughed. A real laugh, broken and exhausted, but genuine. Zara Brooks, what have you done to me? She didn't have an answer for that. She wasn't sure she wanted one. Neither of them could sleep. The threat hung between them like smoke. James's words, the implied violence, the promise of worse to come. But somehow, standing in the kitchen at 2 a.m., none of that seemed to matter as much as it should. You don't have a single snack in this entire kitchen. Do you know that? I have protein bars. Protein bars are not snacks, they're punishment in foil wrappers. She opened another cabinet, closed it, sighed dramatically. No Oreos, no chips, not even crackers. How do you survive? I order in. That's incredibly sad. I'll alert the media. She found the honey, imported, probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget, and added a generous spoonful to the steeping tea. The domesticity of it should have felt strange. It didn't. When I was little, whenever I couldn't sleep, my grandmother would make me chamomile tea with extra honey. She said it was magic. Was it? No, but believing it was, that was the whole point. She poured 2 cups, sliding one across the marble toward him. Their fingers brushed on the handoff. Neither pulled away. You didn't have to fly back early, the Hong Kong meeting was important. You're more important. The words landed between them like a confession. Simple. Devastating. Daniel, I know this started as a business arrangement. I know you signed a contract. And technically, what happens to you is a liability issue. A liability issue. How romantic. Let me finish. He set down his cup, moved closer. Close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, the tension in his jaw, the careful way he was holding himself back. When James threatened you tonight, I felt something I haven't felt since my father died. Terror. Actual, genuine terror. Not because of what it would mean for the investigation. Not because I'd have to find someone else to play this role. Then why? Because the thought of something happening to you, of someone hurting you, felt like someone was pulling my organs out through my chest. She should step back. Maintain distance. Remember that this was fake, that she was a tool in his revenge plot, that in 6 months she'd be gone with a check and a signed NDA. She didn't step back. That's the least romantic description of feelings I've ever heard. I'm told I lack emotional vocabulary. Maybe you just need practice. The air between them crackled. His hand came up, hovering near her face, not quite touching. If I kissed you right now, would that be part of the contract? No. Would you want me to anyway? The question hung there. Dangerous. Loaded. She should say no. She should walk away. She should remember all the reasons this was a terrible idea. The power imbalance, the murder investigation, the fact that his family thought she was a gold digger and his enemies had already started making threats. Instead, she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, a question neither of them was sure how to answer. Then his hand found the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair, and the question became irrelevant. She'd been kissed before, plenty of times, by clumsy boys in high school, by tipsy dates after dinner, by one memorable disaster of a boyfriend who thought tongue was a competitive sport. This was different. This was fire and honey and the feeling of falling from a great height without knowing if anyone would catch you. This was his breath against her cheek and his other hand at her waist, and the small sound he made, half groan, half prayer, when she pulled him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she couldn't remember why she'd thought distance was important. That was... yeah. I should probably apologize. If you apologize for that kiss, I will throw this tea at you. He laughed. A real laugh surprised out of him, crinkling the corners of his eyes. Noted. She picked up her tea, took a sip, tried to remember how to breathe normally. So, what now? Now we drink our magic tea. And tomorrow, we continue the investigation. And somewhere between here and the end of all this, he reached out, tucked a stray lock behind her ear. We figure out what this is. What if it's nothing? What if it's just proximity and adrenaline and stress? Then we'll know that too. He raised his cup. To figuring things out. She clinked her cup against his. To figuring things out? You don't eat enough. Look at you. All bones and cheekbones. Zara, he doesn't eat enough. Mama, don't mama me. I can see his collarbone through his shirt. That's not healthy for a grown man. Daniel sat at the tiny kitchen table surrounded by more food than he'd seen outside of a state dinner, and wondered if this was what drowning felt like. Patricia, leave the boy alone. He's clearly terrified. I'm not... Honey, I've been alive for 78 years. I know terror when I see it. She reached across the table and patted his hand. Relax. We're not going to interrogate you. Speak for yourself. Patricia Ann Brooks. What? The man wants to marry my only daughter. I'm entitled to questions. Zara buried her face in her hands. This was a mistake. It's fine. He squared his shoulders. Faced Patricia with the same expression he wore in hostile boardrooms. Ask whatever you want, Mrs. Brooks. I have nothing to hide. Patricia's eyebrows rose. She set down her serving spoon. All right then. Why her? I'm sorry? You could have anyone. You're rich, you're handsome, in that intense way, and according to Zara's friend Destiny, you're on several most eligible bachelor lists. So why, my daughter? What makes her special enough for a man like you? The kitchen went quiet. Even the bubbling pot seemed to hush. Daniel looked at Zara, at her mortified expression, at the way she was gripping her glass of sweet tea like a lifeline. Then he looked back at Patricia. Because she's honest. Not honest in the polite way, the way people tell you what you want to hear. Honest in a way that's uncomfortable, challenging, real. He didn't look away from Patricia's assessing gaze. Because she stood in my dressing room and told me I was being an ass when everyone else was afraid to. Because she challenged me in front of my entire staff. Because she makes me want to be the kind of person who deserves to be challenged. That's a pretty answer. It's the truth. He's good. I'll give him that. Mama, what? He is very smooth. Doesn't make it untrue. She turned her sharp eyes on Daniel. You love her? It's a yes or no question, young man. The table waited. Zara's grip on her glass turned white-knuckled. Yes. The word came out quiet. Certain. Like he was admitting something he hadn't fully realized until this moment. Yes, I love her. Zara's breath caught. Then you better not break her heart. Because I may be 78, but I know people who know people. Mama! I'm just saying, I'm old, not toothless. Daniel's lips twitched. Understood, Mrs. Mabel. Call me Mabel. And for God's sake, eat something. You're making me nervous just looking at you. She piled his plate with collard greens, mac and cheese, and what appeared to be an entire chicken thigh. That's better. Now, Patricia, pass the hot sauce. And Daniel, tell me about this business of yours. I want to understand what I'm getting into when my granddaughter becomes one of those fancy corporate wives. Across the table, Zara caught Daniel's eye. He looked shell-shocked, but somehow pleased, like he'd passed a test he hadn't known he was taking. She mouthed, "You love me?" He mouthed back, "Apparently." She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So she did neither, just tucked the moment away somewhere safe in her chest. "He said he loves me. He said it to my grandmother. God help us both." 3 weeks of playing detective had taught Zara one thing. Everyone in Daniel's orbit was hiding something. She'd compiled dossiers on each person from the security log: Samuel Shin's gambling debts, Minji's connections to a rival Korean conglomerate, Yoonji's investments in competitors, Victor Kong's sealed records from military service, and James Chen's environmental foundation, which, on closer inspection, was moving money in patterns that made no sense for charity work. "Where are you hiding it, James?" "Talking to yourself is the first sign of madness, Ms. Brooks." Zara jumped. Karen had materialized beside her desk with the kind of silent efficiency that was frankly terrifying. "Mr. Shin's meeting will be finished in 10 minutes. He's requested your presence for lunch." "Lunch? We usually just do sandwiches at the desk." "This is not that kind of lunch." Something in Karen's tone made Zara's stomach flip. "I'd suggest freshening up. The car will be here at noon." "Okay, what's going on?" Daniel looked up from his menu with practiced innocence. "I don't know what you mean." "You cleared your entire afternoon for lunch. You rented out a restaurant. Karen told me to freshen up. This is not normal. Perhaps I simply wanted to enjoy a meal with my fiancé without the entire office watching." "Daniel." He set down the menu. His eyes were softer than she'd seen them, almost vulnerable. "I've been told I'm not very good at this. Expressing gratitude, appreciation, things that require emotions." She almost laughed. "You've been here for nearly a month. You've worked harder than any assistant I've ever had. You've put yourself in danger for my investigation, and I've barely acknowledged any of it. That's not... Please, let me finish." She closed her mouth. "You asked me once why I chose you. The truth is, I didn't plan to. I went to Milano's that night to close the books on Marco De Luca, to watch his operation one last time before I destroyed it." He leaned forward. "And then I saw you, on your knees in that alley, covered in marinara, tears on your face, and I thought, there's someone who doesn't deserve this. There's someone who's been dealt a terrible hand and keeps playing anyway." "That's not exactly a ringing endorsement." "You were magnificent. Even in your worst moment, you were honest. You didn't make excuses. You didn't blame anyone else. You just kept going." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I've never met anyone like you, Zara Brooks, and I don't know what that means yet, but I know I want to find out." Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Daniel..." The restaurant door opened, and everything went to hell. "Nephew. How intimate." Daniel's uncle stood in the entrance, flanked by 2 men in dark suits. His expression was triumphant. "How did you know I was here?" "I have eyes everywhere, Daniel. You should know that by now." He walked toward their table, each step deliberate. "We need to talk. About the company. About your unusual behavior since your father's death. About decisions you've been making without board approval. Those decisions are within my authority as CEO. Are they? Or are they the decisions of a grief-stricken boy playing at running his daddy's company?" Daniel's hand clenched around Zara's, hard enough to hurt. "Mr. Shin, I don't think this is the time." "Miss Brooks, please. The adults are talking." Something snapped in Zara. "The adults? I'm sorry. Which adult in this room crashed a private lunch to throw a tantrum about business decisions? Because from where I'm sitting, that's not adult behavior. That's something my 5-year-old cousin would do." Samuel's face went purple. "Zara, no, I'm done being talked over. I'm done being dismissed." She stood. You think I'm a gold digger? Fine. You think I'm temporary? Fine. But don't you dare walk into a room and act like I'm not here. Don't you dare treat the man She caught herself. Swallowed. The man I'm marrying like he's a child playing dress-up. Daniel Shin has built more in the last 5 years than you've managed in your entire career. He's twice the businessman you'll ever be. And if you can't see that, then maybe the board should be asking why you're still on it. The silence was deafening. Samuel stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Daniel was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. This isn't over. He turned and left, his goons trailing behind. The door slammed shut. Zara collapsed back into her chair, shaking. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have... Daniel was out of his seat before she could finish. Around the table, pulling her up into his arms. And then he was kissing her. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't practiced, it was desperate and hungry and everything she'd been trying not to feel for weeks. His hands tangled in her hair, her fingers gripped his jacket. The world narrowed to the taste of him, the heat of him, the overwhelming rightness of being exactly where she was. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I don't know what this is. Neither do I. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I know. I don't care. He kissed her again. Everything was different now. The way he looked at her across the conference table, the way his hand found the small of her back in crowds, the way he said her name, like a secret meant only for her. They'd agreed to keep things professional during work hours. It lasted exactly 43 minutes. We should focus. I am focused. You're staring at my lips. That's called focus. She threw a pen at him. He caught it, grinning. Fine. Business. What did you find? James's foundation. It's a front. That got his attention. I track the money. Donations come in from legitimate sources, companies, wealthy individuals, but the outgoing funds don't match any actual environmental projects. They're going to shell corporations. LLCs with no employees, no assets, nothing. Laundering. Or something worse. I found a pattern. Every major transfer corresponds with a drop in Shin Holdings stock prices. It's like someone's profiting from the volatility. Insider trading. Combined with whatever he's hiding about your father... Daniel's expression went dark. James Chen has been bleeding this company dry. And when my father found out, he was killed. The words hung between them. I need proof. Real proof. I know someone who might be able to help. Where exactly are we going? My cousin's place. Your cousin lives in a warehouse? My cousin works in a warehouse. Officially, it's a custom car shop. Unofficially, she pushed open a heavy door. Inside was a tech setup that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Screens, servers, equipment Zara couldn't even name. A young man looked up from one of the terminals. He was tall, dark-skinned, with locks pulled back in a ponytail and skepticism written all over his face. Z, what the hell? Hey, Marcus. You ghost me for 6 weeks and then show up at my door with... He looked Daniel up and down. Whoever this is? Daniel Shin. I know who you are. You're the reason my cousin's been living in a fancy tower instead of answering my calls. Marcus? Is he paying you enough? Because I know some lawyers who could probably get you more. I'm paying her plenty. She's also my fiancé. Marcus stared at Zara. I'm sorry. You're what now? It's complicated. I'll explain later. Right now, I need your help. With what? Accessing records that don't officially exist. Marcus's eyes lit up. This was his element. What kind of records? Financial transactions. Shell companies. Whatever James Chen is hiding. James Chen, CFO of Shin Holdings? The same. The man who donated $50,000 to the mayor's campaign last month. You follow campaign finance? I follow everything. It's kind of my thing. He cracked his knuckles. This is going to take a minute. You might want to find somewhere comfortable. 2 hours later, they had it. Financial records, communications, A paper trail leading from James Chen's Environmental Foundation to a shell company in the Caymans, and from there to a numbered Swiss account. And one more thing. You're going to want to see this. He pulled up a video file. Security footage, time-stamped 3 weeks ago, the night Daniel's father died. On the screen, James Chen entered Marcus Shin's office at 10:47 p.m. He left at 11:23 p.m., and in his hand, tucked into his coat pocket, was a small glass vial. Oh my God. That's the murder weapon. He looked like he might throw up, or commit murder. Possibly both. There's more. I found communications between Chen and someone else, someone inside the company. They were planning this for months. He pulled up an email thread. Encrypted, but he'd cracked it. And at the bottom, a name that made Zara's blood run cold. Minji Shin. The doorman had tried to stop her. Zara had simply said she was there on behalf of Daniel Shin and watched the man's resistance crumble like wet paper. Amazing what a name could do. Ms. Brooks, this is, unexpected. Can I come in? Something flickered in Minji's eyes. Calculation. Curiosity. Of course. The apartment was beautiful in the way museums were beautiful. Impressive but cold. Designed for looking, not living. Zara wondered if this was how all the Shins lived, surrounded by perfection that felt like a cage. Would you like something to drink? I have an excellent oolong. I'm not here for tea. No, I didn't think you were. She settled onto a pristine white sofa, tucking her legs beneath her with feline grace. Daniel sent you, to feel me out before the big confrontation. Daniel doesn't know I'm here. That got a reaction. Minji's perfectly maintained expression cracked, just slightly. Interesting. Then why? Because I want to understand. Understand what? Why? You had everything. Family, position. A cousin who would have done anything for you. Why throw it all away for James Chen? Minji's laugh was brittle. You think this was about James? James Chen is a tool, a means to an end. What end? Freedom. She stood, walked to the window. The morning light made her look older, somehow, tired in ways her makeup couldn't quite hide. Do you know what it's like to be a Shin woman, Ms. Brooks? To be born into this family? I can imagine. No, you can't. You can't imagine being engaged to your cousin at 12, being told your entire purpose is to produce heirs and look beautiful at functions. Being promised to one man, then handed to another when the first one refused. She turned back to face Zara. Daniel broke our engagement and thought he was doing me a favor, but he wasn't. He was just handing me back to my father, to the plans they'd already made. That doesn't justify murder. Doesn't it? She moved closer. Her eyes were fierce now, burning with something that looked almost like grief. Marcus Shin was not a good man. He treated my father like a servant. He treated my mother like a decoration. He treated women like property to be traded and discarded. He was still Daniel's father. And Daniel will recover. He's strong, stronger than any of us gave him credit for. Her gaze sharpened. Especially with you beside him. You're not what I expected, Miss Brooks. What did you expect? A gold digger, a pawn, someone Daniel could use and discard when he was finished. She tilted her head, studying Zara like a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. But you're not, are you? You actually love him. Zara's heart stuttered. She didn't answer. That's unfortunate. For both of you. Is that a threat? It's a warning. This world, our world, destroys people who love too much. It takes whatever you care about and uses it against you. She moved to the door, opened it. Go back to Daniel. Tell him what you found. Do whatever you need to do. But know this. I'm not the only one who wanted Marcus Shin dead. And the others, they're far more dangerous than me. Others? Ask Daniel about his father's enemies. Ask him about the deals Marcus made in Seoul. Ask him why the company's books from 2019 are sealed. Something cold crawled down Zara's spine. What aren't you telling me? Everything. Nothing. The truth is messier than you want it to be, Miss Brooks. It always is. She gestured toward the hallway. Goodbye. I doubt we'll see each other again. At least, not like this. Zara walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click. In her pocket, her phone buzzed. Daniel. Where are you? Zara. Coming home. We need to talk. Daniel? He didn't turn around. My cousin. My own cousin. I'm so sorry. I protected her. When we broke the engagement, I made sure she was taken care of. When her father pressured her into the family business, I defended her. And the whole time, his voice cracked. The whole time, she was planning to kill my father. Zara moved closer, put her hand on his shoulder. We have the evidence. We can take it to the police. They'll... No. Daniel. He turned. His eyes were red-rimmed but dry. This is family. This gets handled internally. You promised me. I know what I promised. He took her hand, pressed it to his chest, over his heart. But I need you to understand something. In my world, justice looks different. It has to. If I hand this over to the police, James Chen will lawyer up. He'll drag it out for years. He might even walk free. And if you handle it yourself? Then he pays? Really pays, along with everyone who helped him. She searched his face, saw the rage beneath the grief, the hunger for something darker than justice. And what about you? What happens to you when it's over? He didn't answer. Daniel, look at me. He did. I can't watch you become someone else. I can't watch you turn into the monster they want you to be. So here's what we're going to do. She stepped closer, cupped his face in her hands. We're going to take them down. Both of them, James and Minji. We're going to destroy everything they've built and make sure they never hurt anyone again. How? Publicly, spectacularly, in a way that leaves no room for lawyers or cover-ups or backroom deals. Her eyes were steady, certain. You're Daniel Shin. You don't need to kill anyone to ruin them. You just need to show the world exactly who they are. He stared at her for a long moment, then slowly a smile crept across his face. Have I mentioned that you're terrifying? You should see me on Sunday dinners at Grandma's. I'd like to. One world domination scheme at a time. Shall we begin? He'd called this meeting himself. Emergency session. The agenda. A vote of no confidence in Daniel Shin's leadership. Samuel had spent the week whispering in ears, calling in favors, reminding everyone of Daniel's erratic behavior since his father's death. The engagement to an unsuitable woman, the missed meetings, the delegation of crucial decisions to a waitress. He thought he'd won. Daniel let him think so. As we all know, Shin Holdings has experienced turbulence under current leadership. Stock prices have fluctuated. Key investors have expressed concern. And frankly, some of the personal decisions made by our CEO have raised questions about his judgment. He shot a look at Zara. With that in mind, I move that the board vote to remove Daniel Shin as CEO effective immediately. I second the motion. All in favor? Before we vote, I have some materials to present. Samuel's eyes narrowed. This isn't the time for presentations. No? I think the board would be very interested in what I've discovered. He pressed a button. The screen behind him flickered to life. James Chen's face, financial records, the Shell Company trail, the Swiss account. What is this? This, James, is the evidence that you've been embezzling from Shin Holdings for the last 8 years, approximately $47 million, funneled through your environmental foundation into your personal accounts. The boardroom went silent. This is absurd. These could be fabricated. They're not. He pressed another button. The security footage. James entering his father's office. James leaving with the vial. You can't prove anything. I don't need to prove it to a court. I just need to prove it to them. He gestured at the board. 12 faces staring at James with dawning horror. But wait, there's more. The emails appeared. The communication between James and Minji, the planning, the coordination, the cold-blooded efficiency of conspiracy. Minji stood up, face white. Daniel. Sit down, cousin. His voice was ice. You helped murder my father, the man who treated you like a daughter, who defended you to your own father, who gave you every opportunity, every chance. He was going to destroy us. He found out about the embezzlement, and he was going to... Minji, shut up. But it was too late. She'd admitted it, in front of 12 witnesses and a security camera recording every second. Daniel stood. The police are outside. They've been briefed on the evidence. James Chen and Minji Shin will be taken into custody for the murder of Marcus Shin and financial crimes against this company. You can't do this. I already have. The boardroom doors opened. Officers streamed in. James was handcuffed mid-protest. Minji went quietly, tears streaming down her face. Samuel sat frozen, watching his plans crumble. Uncle, I'm going to be generous. You can resign from the board today, or I can release the evidence of your involvement in the cover-up. I didn't know. You knew. You've always known. The difference between you and them is that you were smart enough to keep distance. He leaned in. Get out of my company. Get out of my city. And if I ever see you near my family again, I won't be this merciful. Samuel's face crumpled. He stood on shaking legs and walked out without another word. The remaining board members stared at Daniel. Mr. Shin, what happens now? Daniel looked at Zara. She smiled. Now? We rebuild. Better than before, with people we can actually trust. The city stretched below them like a kingdom waiting to be claimed. Zara found him at the edge of the terrace, tie loosened, jacket discarded, staring at the horizon with an expression she couldn't quite read. The adrenaline of the boardroom still hummed through her veins, mixing with relief and exhaustion, and something else. Something bigger. Penny, for your thoughts? He turned. In the golden light, he looked younger somehow. Softer. Like a weight he'd been carrying for weeks, months, maybe years, had finally been lifted. I thought I'd feel different. Different how? Satisfied, triumphant, like I'd finally gotten justice. He took the champagne she offered, their fingers brushing. But I just feel tired. That's probably the adrenaline crash. Probably. She moved to stand beside him, looking out at the same view, the same city that had chewed her up and spit her out just weeks ago, the same streets where she'd cried behind Milano's, wondering how she'd survive. Funny how things change. For what it's worth, I think what you did in there was remarkable. Destroying my own family, choosing justice over revenge, letting the system work instead of burning everything down. She turned to face him fully. You could have killed them both. Don't pretend you couldn't have, but you didn't. You found another way. You found another way. I just followed your lead. See, that's not nothing. A man like you following the lead of a waitress from Brooklyn. He smiled, a real smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. Former waitress, current fiancé, future everything. Her heart stuttered. Daniel, I know we said 6 months. I know this started as a business arrangement. But Zara, he set down his champagne, took her face in his hands, so gently she might break. I don't want it to be temporary anymore. I don't want a contract. I want everything. Real dates, real fights, meeting your grandmother for Sunday dinner every week and learning how to make her collard greens and... You're rambling. I'm terrified. You? The man who just destroyed a murderous conspiracy in front of his entire board of directors? That was easy. This is hard. She laughed. Actually laughed, bright and real and echoing across the rooftop. You're really bad at this. I know, I've been told. You didn't even ask me a question. He blinked. Then his face shifted. Understanding. Dawning. Zara Brooks. Daniel Shin? Will you make me the happiest man in Manhattan by... Yes. I didn't finish. You were taking too long. You don't even know what I was going to ask. I don't care. The answer is yes to all of it. Real dates, real fights, your grandmother's criticism and my grandmother's Moscato, building something together. She rose on her toes, bringing her face close to his. I choose you, Daniel Shin. Not your money, not your name, not what you can do for me. You, the man who shows up in alleys, the man who listens when I yell at him, the man who loves his mother's earrings and can't cook pasta and looks at me like I'm the only person in the room. She kissed him. It was different from before. The kisses in the kitchen had been tentative, questioning. The kiss in the restaurant had been desperate. This one was certain. Final. A declaration as much as an action. When they broke apart, both breathless, he was grinning. So that's a yes? That's a yes. To marriage. To everything. He swept her into his arms. Literally swept her, like something from a movie, and spun them both in a circle as the sunset blazed behind them. Put me down. Never. Daniel! You said yes. You don't get to take it back. He set her down but kept her close, close enough that their foreheads touched, close enough to breathe the same air. I love you, Zara Brooks. I love you too, Daniel Shin. Good, because I just fired my entire executive team, and I'm going to need help hiring replacements. She burst out laughing. Way to ruin a moment. I'm told it's my specialty. You're insufferable. And you love me. God help me, I really do. So, we did it. We did. James and Minji are in custody. Samuel is gone. The company is yours. The company was always mine. Now it's actually clean. He set down his champagne glass. Zara, there's something we need to talk about. Her stomach dropped. If you're about to tell me the contract is over... What? No. He looked genuinely confused. I was going to ask if you wanted to stay. Stay? The original agreement was 6 months. A performance. A transaction. He took her hands. But somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending. Everything I told you at that lunch, about wanting to find out what this is, I meant it. Every word. Daniel, I know this started as a business deal. I know you didn't ask for any of this, and if you want to walk away when the 6 months are up, I'll honor that. I'll make sure you get everything we agreed to. His voice was steady, but she could see the fear underneath, the expectation of rejection. But if there's any chance at all, that you feel what I feel, what do you feel? He looked at her. Really looked. No masks, no walls. I feel like I've been dead for 30 years and just started breathing. I feel like everything I built was empty until you walked into that alley. I feel like I would burn this entire city to the ground if it meant keeping you safe. He reached up, touched her face. I love you, Zara Brooks. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. I just know that I can't imagine my life without you in it. The tears came before she could stop them. You're an idiot. I'm aware. A brilliant, infuriating, emotionally constipated idiot. Also aware. And I love you too. His eyes went wide. I love you. I've loved you since you stood in that alley and didn't offer me empty sympathy. Since you looked at me like I was a person and not a problem. Since you gave me your mother's earrings and told me not to thank you. She grabbed his collar. I don't want a contract, Daniel Shin. I want you, the real you. The broken, terrifying, loyal to a fault man who would buy a restaurant just to shut down the person who hurt me. In my defense, Marco DeLuca really was a terrible human being. You literally planted rats in his kitchen. Allegedly. Daniel. Yes? Shut up and kiss me. He did. This kiss was different from the first one. Slower, more certain. The kiss of two people who had stopped running and decided to stay. When they finally broke apart, they were both smiling. Does this mean you'll marry me? For real? Ask me properly. He laughed. Actually laughed. Bright and full and free. Zara Brooks, will you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? not for contracts or appearances or corporate stability, but because I love you, because I want to wake up next to you every morning, because I want to introduce you to my grandmother in Seoul and watch her pretend to disapprove while secretly being thrilled, because I want to fund your restaurant and eat there every night and fight with you about the menu, because I want everything with you. She pretended to think about it. That's a lot. I'm a lot. You really are. She kissed him again. Yes, my answer is yes. The restaurant was perfect. Not Shin Holdings perfect. Not cold and calculated and designed to intimidate. This was warm, welcoming. The kind of place where you wanted to stay for hours, drinking wine and eating pasta and laughing with friends. Her kind of perfect. Girl, you really did it. We did it. You're my head server, remember? Oh, I remember. I also remember you literally married a billionaire, but sure, let's pretend this is normal. It feels normal. And it did. Somehow, impossibly, this life she'd never imagined had become home. Daniel appeared at her elbow, looking devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit. There's someone I'd like you to meet. He guided her toward the entrance, where an elderly Korean woman was being helped from a car by what appeared to be an army of assistants. Zara, this is my grandmother. Halmoni, this is Zara. The woman studied her with sharp eyes, the same eyes as Daniel, the same assessing intelligence. She's beautiful. I know. Can you cook? Ma'am, we're standing in my restaurant. That wasn't what I asked. I can make a kimchi fried rice that would make your ancestors weep. A long pause. Then, impossibly, the grandmother smiled. I like her. Thank God. Don't thank God. Thank your wife. She's the one who had the good sense to not be intimidated by an old woman. She patted Zara's hand. Welcome to the family, child. We're not easy to love, but we're worth it. Later, after the speeches and toasts and inevitable chaos of a grand opening, Zara found herself alone on the restaurant's rooftop terrace. The city spread out below her, the same city that had chewed her up and spit her out a year ago, the same city where she'd been fired, threatened, dragged into a conspiracy, and fallen in love with the most impossible man she'd ever met. Not bad for a waitress from Brooklyn. Arms wrapped around her from behind. Daniel's chin settled on her shoulder. Escaping your own party? Just taking a moment. Second thoughts? Third and fourth. But they're not the kind you're worried about. He turned her around, holding her close. What are you thinking about? That night, at Milano's. If I hadn't been fired, I would have found another reason. To destroy Marco? To meet you. She laughed. That's very romantic. I'm a very romantic man. You literally bought a restaurant to get revenge on my behalf. That was business. Daniel. Fine, it was slightly personal. He kissed her forehead. I'd do it again, 1,000 times. I'd buy every restaurant in the city if it meant ending up here. That's excessive. That's devotion. She looked up at him, at this man who'd appeared in an alley like a dark angel and turned her entire life upside down, at the fierce, broken, loyal heart beneath the suits and billions and carefully constructed walls. I love you, Daniel Shin. I love you too, Zara Shin. She blinked. I didn't take your name. Not yet, but you will. That's confident. That's destiny. He spun her around, pulling her into a waltz right there on the rooftop. No music except the sound of the city below. You know what the best part is? What? Marco DeLuca's restaurant never recovered. I heard he's working at a food truck now. What a shame. You did that. Allegedly. I love you. I know. She punched his arm. I mean, I love you too. Desperately. Obsessively. In a way that's probably clinically concerning. Better? She rose on her toes and kissed him, there under the stars, while the city hummed below them and the future stretched out ahead like an endless possibility. This isn't how the story was supposed to go, she thought. This is better.